This is just, it's a no-brainer to be here because it's doing two things that I really love, because the pleasure I get from sharing messages that are going to help people thrive in difficult times, for example, is just immense. And plus the fact that we're doing this in support of children with disabilities. Because just to give you a little bit of background from me, I originally born in the UK, as you could probably guess from the accent. I've lived in the Australia now for 30 something years, and I you know but you don't want the whole life story, but one of the things that I did do, which was really to give me a sense of purpose, or give me a sense of contribution to my local community, was that I trained as a swim teacher. And as I still work as a swim teacher to a very, very small degree now. It's just sort of like a part-time consultation job that I have. But I've been working with an organization for like 15 years now called Rainbow Club, that um, we specialize in teaching swimming and giving aquatic experiences to children with special needs. And so from that perspective, it's always been a love of my life, that I will do as much as I can and even more for supporting the families who I know go through a lot of difficult times because of the extra help that their children need. So to anybody out there who's listening to me today who hasn't yet contributed, please get on that GoFundMe link and just pour money into this fund, because it is well worth your while to do that, and I know lots of people will benefit from the result. So having said that, thriving in difficult times, I was thinking today, it suddenly struck me that we have been talking for the last couple of years about COVID like it's like it's the difference between BC and AD, right? It's like there's such a cataclysmic event that has happened that has totally shifted the way the world is thinking. And over the last couple of days, we've been hearing so many coaches who are giving very, very similar messages. And I love that I'm following Jenny, because she has really sort of opened up the conversation around a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. Now, so do you need to hear it again? Yes, you do need to hear it again, because as I think it was Tony Robbins told a story once of a minister who was preaching from his pulpit on a Sunday, and he gave a really grand sermon, and his parishioners went away and said, that's fantastic, that's fantastic. This next week he gave exactly the same sermon, and his parishioners sort of started thinking, oh, okay, I think we've heard that before. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the same sermon, until somebody went up to him and says, I think we're going a little bit senile here. We've heard this message. And he says, yeah, you've heard the message, but you're still not doing it. Right? So we need to hear these messages over and over and over again before we actually do things. So having said that, what I'd like to share with you is just 5 elements that I believe are really great to help us thrive. And when we think about thriving, I'd like you to think of, that really equates to happiness, right? So in the middle of, whoops, I've lost my pen now. I'll use a blue one. In here, this is happy, right? That is our thriving space. And the elements that form it, I believe, the S is our story. Now, our story is based on everything that we believe about ourselves. Jenny was just explaining that. So that the stuff that we grow up with, all the stories from our families that they've taught us about various things, That was their beliefs, their values that we learn as children become the background to how we live our life. That becomes like the sort of the canvas that we're living from. And the more we have negativity in that story, the more we are disappointed with our life and our results that we have. So, for example, when I was growing up, my parents had grown up through the war, the Second World War. And so growing up in times of lack, growing up in times of restriction and danger. So everything that they taught me as a child was based on that perspective. That was based on, oh, darling, you've got to keep safe. Oh, you're not eating your peas? Hold on a second. There'd be a lot of people who are really grateful for those peas on your plate. Eat them. Eat everything that's in front of you. So there's a lot of stuff that you may think that sounds familiar because it's from your childhood. And until we can let that go, until we can unpack all of that and say, well, that's the way my mum and dad believed about life. But now I know that everything's in abundance. I don't need to worry about where my next meal is coming from because there is so much abundance, right? I don't need to worry about keeping myself safe and keeping myself wrapped up in cotton wool because the more I do that, the less risk I will take. So the more we understand our story, and that great quote from Henry Ford that we've heard just a few minutes ago, I think you can or think you can't, either way you're right. That is so true. So if you're thinking more in lack, I'd like you to focus on what have you got? If you're thinking more on, I keep failing about things, turn it around into, what can I do? What do I know I'm good at? Create a story that empowers you. The second element I want to bring up, I call hours. All right. So, a clunky way of getting time into this element. But we've all got hours that we can spend on developing ourselves. I'll give you an analogy. If you had a bank account that at 1 minute past midnight every night, you had a deposit of $86,400 that you could spend any way you like, what would you spend it on? $86,400. Yeah. Is that enough money? Is that a lot of money? Is that a small amount of money? How do you quantify it? Right? And what are you going to do with it? Because let me warn you that at midnight every day, it vanishes. You can't save it. You can't put it aside for a rainy day. It's gone. But 1 minute past midnight the next day, there you go. $86,400. You'd spend it on being retired, would you, Sally? So a lot of people would spend that on, I'd go and buy some gifts, or I'd go on a nice holiday for the day, or I'd spend it on my family, or maybe there's some training I want to do. This would be really fantastic ways of doing it. Would you spend it on your work? Some might say yes, some might say no. All right. So instead of it being dollars, let me tell you that in this bank account, that is seconds. Every single day we have 86,400 seconds. And you can use that time any way you like. It's yours. The trouble is that it doesn't stick around. So you can't save it. You can't save that time for tomorrow. because tomorrow you've still got 86,400 seconds, right? So are you being distracted? Are you living according to the urgencies of other people? Are you, sort of spending time on this thing on your phone, answering emails or on social media or sending text messages? The demands of other people interfere with our life the whole time. So there are strategies. We've heard from time management people over the last couple of days about how you might shut off your phone or allocate time for social media or allocate time for your emails. Who do you need to say no to? Who do you need to say yes to? Right? So the way we allocate our time is really, really crucial to how you're going to successfully claim your power so that you can start to thrive and be happy. There was a woman, Bronnie Ware, who wrote a book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the top of them were things like be true to myself rather than other people's expectations. And also, I wouldn't work so much. I'd spend more time with the family. So think about how you're spending your time. The next thing down here is inspiration. Inspiration. And by this, what I mean is, who are you listening to? What radio frequency have you tuned into? I think Jenny used that metaphor as well. If you're listening to lots of people who are stuck in the drama of how things are so bad, then that's going to create a really negative feeling around you, right? So there's a newspaper sort of quote or quip that you've probably heard: if it bleeds, it leads, right? So we're fed through through media, through the print media and the news media, a lot of negativity. Social media, interestingly enough, has a lot of positivity in it, but often that's a distraction of your time. All right, so just know that the people that are around you who are feeding you information are sort of helping to create that feeling of I'm in control of my life or I'm totally out of control. So I think it was Jim Rohn who said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. So if you want to create really powerful forward moving momentum, then you need to be surrounded by people who are forward moving, who are ahead of you, who are really sort of looking to step up rather than drag you back. Okay. Next element. These are all things that I talk to my clients about, I'd have to say, especially this one, needs. Now, a lot of you will have heard of Tony Robbins. He, I'd say, is one of the most influential people in my life. And this 6 core needs that he created, a model, he worked out that there are 6 needs that there were 4 that we're all meeting all of the time. There are 6 in total, and not everybody actually achieves the last 2. And this is a really big subject, so I'm really not going to be able to do it justice in a few minutes. But let it be known that if we're constantly trying to find ourselves comfort or some way of staying safe, we've all got a comfort zone, or you've heard of that comfort zone. Yeah. So the comfort zone is where we're feeling that safety and security, the stability of our life. That's one of our needs. It's a survival need. We need to feel safe, right? But we can feel safe even out on the limb of a tree. Have you ever seen tree surgeons? They know they're safe because they've got all of their anchors in place. they've got all of the ropes, they know their craft, but they can still stand on the edge of a tree and chop off branches that are useless. Yeah. So it's knowing how to be safe and secure without that being a behavior that's going to limit you, as in, sort of sitting around in front of the telly or something. So, or avoiding situations where you will be challenged, because the next need is actually challenge. It's variety. Variety is the spice of life, remember? So challenge, variety, the sort of the opportunity to do something different. So we all need that in our lives, and so bringing in challenge is very, very important. But lots of people will do it from a sort of dysfunctional way and create drama. They'll be constantly looking for their keys, or constantly, sort of fighting some drama that's happening in their life, right? That is them meeting their need for variety or challenge, but from a dysfunctional way. So we can either be functional, I mean, as in sustainable with the way we meet our needs, or we can do it in a rather sort of, dysfunctional way that is not serving us, not serving other people. All right. So certainty or variety, those are the top two. Next, significance. We all have a need to feel seen and heard, understood. We all have that need. But some people will do that from the point of view of being, really quite a bullying and crashing through things, and pushing people around, that they've got to be the top dog. Whereas others will do it from a perspective of, that they're a leader in their community, but they lead from love, that they lead from a place of generosity and kindness. Right. So there's two different ways you can meet your significance need as well. And the fourth need that we're always meeting is our need for connection. So we have to belong somewhere. When we feel isolated, when we feel that we're sort of out on a limb, and on our own, that is when we feel at our lowest. Yeah. And I'm sure that if you've not felt that yet, you probably know somebody who has felt that way. And the lower we feel, the lower we go. So those four needs, we're meeting all the time. Our needs for certainty, variety, significance, and connection. The ones that not everybody meets are the needs for personal growth and contribution. And I'd have to say, though, that for most people who have been contributing today, of course, they're meeting that need really well here. And I guess a lot of the people here, especially the coaches, are all into their personal growth. So go us for meeting those two needs in a really sustainable way. There is no dysfunctional way of meeting those two needs. It is all positive. So as you can tell, I've literally just raced through those 6 needs, but there is a huge amount of stuff that is going to contribute to the way we're feeling, that's going to help us thrive, right? And it often is driven by our needs. Right, this last point, because I can see that time is getting shorter and shorter. This last point is our energy. So the energetic field that we're actually sort of projecting, our emotional field, is where we're living emotionally, is how we bring our energy. So I mentioned people who were feeling very low down here. So the more depressed we are, the more fearful we live. It's like a thermometer, right? Like a thermometer, the lower the energy down here, the lower the feelings that we're feeling, as in, are you feeling guilty, or are you feeling fearful, are you feeling depressed? the sadness, the anger, they're all sort of pretty what we might call negative emotions, right? And a lot of people that I deal with in my coaching are often sort of feeling quite trapped in those negative emotions. So using tools and techniques to move them up the thermometer to higher resonating emotions, bringing in love and gratitude and appreciation and so on and so forth. If you did an exercise, in fact, I think Jenny was talking about it a few minutes ago. If you did that exercise of, how are you feeling? What emotions do you feel during a week? Because if you started to ask yourself things like that, that will really highlight for you the limited range in which you're living emotionally, and it'll open up the opportunity to say, well, I need to move somewhere else. I need to, or I would like to choose a different emotion. Right? There is a choice in it. We don't always have to react in the same way to life. We can choose our reactions and we can choose our emotions. So as we put all of this together and we start living at a higher energetic frequency, it will naturally become that we're more aware of our needs, that we're meeting our needs at a higher level, right? And we're starting to meet more of them sustainably and functionally and more consistently. Because the more consistently we can live our life, the better it's going to be. And we will find ourselves listening to a naturally we will find ourselves listening to a different radio station, as it were. We'll be listening to different people who are inspiring us to move forwards again. So that also means that we will probably be spending more time on ourselves. We will have put boundaries in around the people who pulled us back, right? They will have dropped off. All the family who were keeping us safe, or the friends who were sort of the negative naysayers, they will have dropped off. They're not in this group anymore. So we've got more time to spend on ourselves. We've got more time to devote to the things that are really important to us, rather than just the urgencies of life. And my God, that changes the narrative. It gives us a totally different story. The way we thrive in life, I believe, is all in these 5 elements. And once you understand that, you have in your hands the key to happiness.